Today's book review is going to be discussing Animal Farm, written by George Orwell and published in 1945. And if you don't know what Animal Farm is a satirical allegory describing the events of the Russian Revolution in 1917 and the subsequent rise of Joseph Stalin and his form of communism. Animal Farm is satirical in the way that the plot is devised. And it's devised through our protagonists, namely Marx, Stalin, Trotsky, and Lenin, being pigs on an animal farm, where they gather the proletariat, other such animal farms such as horse, goats, chickens, to overthrow the bourgeoisie, namely the human farmer that takes care of the farm. And so the premise of the entire story is you following around Pig Trotsky, Pig Stalin, and Pig Lenin, where eventually Pig Stalin takes over command of the animal farm, throws out Pig Trotsky, takes over the farm, throws out the human, and in the end, everyone becomes subservient to Pig Stalin, where then he has total ultimate power, where beforehand he promised everyone equality when he would come into power, and in the end, he promised the infamous quote, just said at the end of Animal Farm, which is that all are equal, but some are more equal than others. And so the entire point of the story is that nobody's equal. There's no such thing as equality in this world. And with Pig Stalin as a leader, there's especially no equality. And the way the characters are described in the story are quite comical as well, especially the characters of Stalin and Trotsky. The name of Trotsky in the story is Snowball, and he's a lighter-skinned, small pig. And his entire stature and character throughout the story is of a pig that is probably the friendliest out of all the pigs, and he's trying to give true equality onto all the other pigs. And then you have Pig Stalin, who's called Napoleon, and he's a darker-skinned, much bigger and fatter pig, instead of being bigger than the rest of the pigs, where he's the most arbitrary and narcissistic pig out of all of them, where essentially he's just trying to rise for power. He's trying to control everyone for his own good, for himself to gain more power. And then you have in the story another pig character who dies at the beginning of the story, but his whole point was to tell of the other farm animals what would happen if they didn't get their checks in balance and if they didn't take care of themselves. And essentially, this character is supposed to portray Karl Marx, and he's called Old Major. And it's essentially pretty aligned with what happened in real life, where you had someone who came along and said, what would happen if everyone didn't get their checks in balance? He passed off his lineage, therefore, to Lenin. Apart from being a satirical parody of real-life events, Animal Farm is a pretty good look into what happened historically in the Russian Revolution. Now, it's not a historical document that tells of what actually happened, but in the way that it's told as a satirical story, it actually gives pretty good insight as to what happened in the Russian Revolution. So it's not really recommended as something to use as your main piece to understand the Russian Revolution, but it pretty much boils down all the major events that happened throughout the revolution and gives it in this parody of a story.